Okay, let's talk about that thing. The one you keep saying you'll get to someday.
Oh, definitely. That big project, or maybe just an idea that's still kind of floating around.
Exactly. We all do it, right? Put things off thinking, oh, I'll wait for the perfect moment.
Yeah, it's so common, that feeling that you need everything to be just right before you start. It feels smart, like strategic planning.
Well, today we're going to tackle that head on. We're diving deep into why we procrastinate, this whole myth of the perfect time, and maybe more importantly, how to actually get going now.
Mm-hmm. Think of it as getting under the skin of procrastination. We've been looking at this really interesting lecture that unpacks it all.
Right. Talks about why we delay, why perfection is, well, maybe not the goal.
And give some actual strategies for taking that first step, which is often the hardest part.
Yeah, and this isn't about like adding more pressure or just making massive to-do lists. It's more about understanding the psychology behind why we hesitate.
Precisely. And according to this lecture, one of the biggest traps is that little word, someday.
That sounds so hopeful, doesn't it? Someday I'll.
It does, but the lecture frames it quite differently, almost like someday is where good ideas go to, well, to fade away. A potential dream killer, essentially.
Wow. Okay. So digging into that a bit, one point that really stood out was how procrastination isn't always, laziness. Sometimes it wears a disguise.
Ah, yes. The planning disguise.
Exactly. You spend ages researching, making lists, outlining. It feels super productive.
But is it, or is it just a really elaborate way of avoiding the actual starting point, putting off the messy bit?
That really resonated, that perpetual prep mode. We tell ourselves we're getting ready, but maybe we're just kind of delaying the vulnerability of actually doing the thing.
Yeah, the lecture talks about this illusion of waiting for the right time, like there's going to be some cosmic signal,
Right, a green light from the universe specifically for your project.
which, let's be honest, rarely happens.
So, beyond just wanting the timing to be right, what's the deeper thing stopping us? And the lecture points pretty directly at perfectionism.
Ah, the classic. It spends a good chunk of time there, and it makes sense. Perfectionism often isn't really about high standards.
What is it then?
Well, the lecture suggests it's often fear. Fear dressed up nicely.
Fear of what, though? Like fear of failing.
Yeah, or fear of not being good enough, fear of what people will think. It's all tied together. You set this impossibly high bar.
That you can never actually reach, so you just don't even start.
Exactly. It becomes the perfect excuse to stay put. And the lecture has some great little phrases like, done is better than perfect. Simple, but cuts right through it.
So true. It hits home.
And it makes the point that perfect isn't even a static thing, right? It changes. By the time you think you've got it perfect, the world's moved on anyway.
That's a great point. Like,
Yeah.
think about early online videos or websites.
Yeah.
They weren't slick.
Not at all. They were raw. People just started. They put stuff out there. The lecture uses examples like early YouTube creators. It wasn't polished.
It brings up that whole MVP idea from tech, doesn't it? Minimum viable product.
Exactly. Get something basic out, get feedback, iterate. Don't wait for the flawless final version that might never come.
So the same applies to our own goals. What if we just, allowed ourselves to start messy?
To start ugly, as the lecture puts it, to just begin.
Yeah. And maybe reframe mistakes not as failures, but as...
As data points, as
Right.
learning, part of the process, even if the first attempt is, well, a bit wobbly.
Okay, so if you're letting go of perfect,
Huh.
how do we actually build momentum? The lecture moves into this, but not in a stressful way.
Right. It's not about pressure. It connects to finding what really drives you. It talks about urgency, but a different kind.
Not deadline-driven panic.
No, more like joy-fueled urgency, tapping into things that genuinely excite you, that pull you forward because you want to do them.
Oh, I like that. Joy-fueled urgency. So it's about intrinsic motivation.
Pretty much. Finding the why that lights you up. And it suggests practical things like setting small, almost fun mini goals.
And visual reminders.
Yeah.
Things to keep that why in front of you.
Yeah, and celebrating the small wins, those little steps forward really build momentum and make it feel less daunting. It keeps the energy positive.
The lecture gives examples, right?
Right.
Creators who just keep going.
Mm-hmm. People who consistently produce, not because everything's perfect, but because they're genuinely passionate about the process itself.
And it poses that question directly to the listener, doesn't it?
Right.
What's one thing you truly want to do? Not a should, but a want.
Yeah, take a second to actually think about that. What genuinely excites you?
Because connecting with that feeling makes it less about seeking approval.
And more about the satisfaction of just doing it, making progress on something that matters to you.
Okay, and then to really drive it home, the lecture brings in some real-life stories. Examples of people who just jumped.
Yeah, these are powerful. It mentions people like Sarah Blakely starting Spanx, very little money, no real experience in that industry,
Facing tons of rejection.
constantly, but she kept going. Or Casey Neistat, the filmmaker, his early stuff was super raw, very unpolished.
But he focused on the story.
Exactly. And Brian Chesky starting Airbnb, like right in the middle of a massive recession. Talk about imperfect timing.
What strikes me is that none of them waited. They didn't have all the answers or the perfect setup.
Not at all. The lecture really highlights that. No perfect gear, no ideal moment, no magic connections, just the courage to begin.
And often, those early imperfections, that rawness, it became part of their story, didn't it? Part of what made them stand out.
Absolutely. It shows you don't need that polished facade right from day one. Authenticity counts.
Okay, so we've dismantled the someday myth,
Yeah.
challenged perfectionism, got inspired by these stories. Now, the crucial part, actually doing something.
Right. This is where theory meets practice. How do you translate all this into action? The lecture gives some clear guidance here.
It starts simple. Focus on one thing, that one project or idea you keep pushing back.
Just one. And then ask yourself, what's the absolute smallest step I could take today?
Not the whole thing, not even a big chunk, just one tiny action.
Tiny is the keyword. Something manageable. Break the inertia. The lecture suggests writing it down, making it specific.
Like send one email, make one phone call, draft just the first paragraph.
Exactly that level of small. And then, here's the kicker. Commit to doing it, like within the next 24 hours.
Creates a bit of immediate accountability, even just to yourself.
It does, and it gives examples. Set up a basic profile, record a 30-second video, reach out to just one contact, sign up for one intro class.
And then comes that permission slip again. Start ugly, start messy. Just start.
It's so freeing. Let go of the need for it to be perfect right out of the gate. Embrace the awkwardness.
And it actually prompts the listener, us, everyone. Pause, write down that one small step now. Make it real.
That act of writing it down, it sounds simple, but it really shifts something mentally, makes it concrete.
So we've gone through this whole journey really guided by this lecture, challenging procrastination.
And we land on this really powerful core message. The lecture sums it up so well.
What's the final takeaway?
It's this. The perfect time doesn't exist. The only time that's real, the only time you have is right now. Pretty direct, huh?
Wow. Yeah, that cuts through everything. No more waiting for the stars to align.
None. And right after that, this really important piece of encouragement, you're not too late. You are actually right on time.
What?
But you do need to act. You need to take the step. It's that blend of empowerment and a clear call to action.
The past is gone. The future isn't here yet. All we have is now.
That's the essence of it. The present moment is where the power lies.
So let's echo that prompt one last time for everyone listening. What's that one thing, the one you've been putting off? Really picture it. And then building on that, what's one tiny specific action you can take today? Seriously, make it small. An email, a call, 5 minutes of brainstorming. And remember those words. Start ugly, start messy. It's okay. It really is. Let go of perfection.
Just take that first imperfect step.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. Consider the power shift. What happens when you genuinely value doing something now over waiting for some imaginary perfect future?
How could shifting from someday thinking to today thinking actually unlock the progress you want to see? How could it bring your ideas to life?
Because ultimately, your journey, whatever it might be, it starts with that single next step.
And the really cool thing, you have the power to take that step right now.